Hello again. I'm back at it with another video for my ongoing D&D series, and in this one we will be creating the 3 big evil end bosses of this campaign. This series has been going on now for almost 2 years, give or take, and the party is currently level 19, so this is all very endgame stuff, which is to say, I'll be aiming to make the models in this video pretty damn huge and high fantasy. And at the end of the video there will also be 3 quick model features from the recent Hallowforge competition that took place in my Discord, so stick around for that. Anyway, as always, links will be in the description below, along with links to my Patreon and my community Discord server, and without further ado, enjoy the video. So, starting us off here, we have a massive devil, and the aim here is to land somewhere in between the Balrog and Diablo. So, a few months ago I made this video on creating angels and devils, but to be completely honest, I think it was one of my worst projects, and I want to redeem myself by creating a real devil this time around, not just some evil red guy in fancy clothing, okay? However, as you can already see, we are using the model from that video as a starting template, since technically this is just a bigger version of the very same character. And step 1 here is just to create a very big frame to work on, but once that's done we're going to need to use literally everything that we can to detail up this monster. I'm talking not just kit bashing, but tails, double modeling, etc, etc. So yeah, this one will be heavy, but wish me luck. As you can see, this is where the tail work begins. Now, why am I doing this exactly? Okay, so kit bashing has a very set limit, right? And even if you use the cheapest parts, I will never get enough spikes for this devil. I want this character to look very ridged, like the skin itself is not just red and corrupted, but absolutely covered in these tiny little spikes and almost carapace looking bits of bone protruding everywhere. And if I want that, I need to spam out this particular tail, the alien tail I think it's called, because each tail has a bunch of little tiny spikes on it, and if I then just carefully pose them into the devil's body, I can keep the spikes without actually showing most of the tail. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is very tedious to do, but for a model like this I don't have a choice, so yeah, here we are. This devil is a humanoid in the sense that it's, the same character as the little starting model, so I wanted to keep the face relatively similar, but at the same time, if you have this huge devil model and then just a very typical human-y face colored red, there's a big mismatch that I don't like. So to achieve a middle ground for that Balrog Diablo look, we need a bunch of spikes on the face as well. Fortunately though, most of these are pretty cheap in kit bashing terms, they're only 1% each. Now, this part here I wasn't too big a fan of myself, but I do create these models for my dungeon master, not for myself. So, this gauntlet that the devil is wearing is it's a legendary magic item that's meant to be a potential drop/reward if the party manages to defeat this devil. And because of that, I need to create something very distinct here from the rest of the model, and also something that I can then potentially put on a player character later. But basically, I mean, it's just a big devil-themed Thanos gauntlet, right? Designed to look evil as hell. No pun intended. And now, as promised, some good old-fashioned double modeling. Really, there's not much to say about this other than that I desired even more details, so instead of 13 tails on one model, I now have 26. Yay, that's even more posing for me, haha. Anyway, model tricks aside, I will give some context as to what this character is actually about. Essentially, he is the main villain of specifically Vice and Valis' story. They are tieflings and this is a devil, so you can kind of guess what it's all about, right? Throughout the campaign, he has only shown up a couple of times and mostly as a manipulative background figure. But it is a nice trope, I think, for the shady manipulator to eventually turn out to be a gigantic monster beast, so I'm down with it. And best of all, I mean, this gave me a chance to actually redeem myself after that mediocre little devil model that I made last time. But you know, devils are a diverse and very popular fantasy concept, so like if you feel like I missed something, if you have suggestions on how I could improve this, I'm actually genuinely curious, so please let me know in the comments. Much as how I've technically made a devil before, I have also made a hag before, but not quite like this one. What we're creating now is an arch-hag, which means it needs to be as big as an ogre and as evil as a devil. This is the main rival or nemesis or villain, whatever you want to call it, of Briar's story. And yeah, you can probably see a pattern here in that the end bosses are loosely linked to each of the characters in the D&D party, right? Like you had the draconic lord for Lawrence and the kobolds in the past, now you have the devil for Vice and Valis and a hag for Briar, etc, etc. It all links up, okay? This is kind of how D&D campaigns tend to go. Anyway, it's time to go crazy. Hags are fun because, you know, you get to just go completely unhinged and make them as horrifying and ugly as you can imagine, so yeah, let's go. So this suggestion came from my dungeon master himself actually, which I felt was very fitting with hags. Anyone who's played like Baldur's Gate 3 will be familiar with this kind of horror, but I think the best thing about hags is that they always find the most twisted and like sadistic way to ensnare their victims. And in the case of this one, we wanted to show those former victims on the model itself. And yes, that means we are putting in a bunch of trapped people, literal people being sponged up and slowly being absorbed by the hag's physical body. Yeah, we're going for nightmare fuel with this one. They are trapped, they can't get out, and their only company is the other people who are also being slowly eaten. You'll see, there will be a few of them by the time the model is done. And yes, at least this first one is done with simple double modeling, but unlike with the devil, I'm not trying to hide it this time. Here are those other little faces I promised. I mean, hopefully this hag will actually eat Briar too, and then we can have, you know, one less elf in the party. That would be great. But anyway, we're nearing completion now. This model was actually much harder to work on than I'd expected, and as you can probably see by, you know, how many iterations and scraps concepts I've thrown away throughout this edited recording, right? For example, she was supposed to be carrying like this cloak of fear that would be a magical item, but nothing I made looked right. So instead, if she dies and that magic item is indeed looted, I'm just going to reskin it as the literal flayed skin of this hag and put her evil face on the shoulder or something of whatever character decides to loot and wear it. That'll be fun to make down the line, I think. Finally, we have the Corrupted Angel. This one also comes from that angel/devil video that I made, and this character is also the father of Marek the Cleric, so, you know, you can probably guess what this one is about as well, and which character it is, you know, an end boss for. Now, I'm going to take the exact same model from that video and darken it. The hair is going to go grey, the armor is going to be less shiny, everything will be more desaturated and evil looking. Even this fancy angelic greatsword is going to be corrupted as well. The real difficult part here though is honestly going to be the reposing, since this like original model was made before Body Customizer even came out. That means that any big change to the pose is honestly a bit of a horror, since all of these like tiny kit bashing pieces will have to be readjusted to fit after I've also had to shape up the model to correct proportions again, but you know, whatever, it'll be fine. As I said earlier, a lion's share of the work here is just a lot of awkward reposing in order to turn this character into what will be an enemy combat token in top-down D&D, right? And honestly, this is why I really dislike creating models that aren't from scratch. I've always felt like I get much better results in Hallowforge when I remake something from the very ground up, but seeing as this model was so recent and was still meant to look so similar to its original uncorrupted counterpart, it would have been silly to start fresh, right? But yeah. If you want my advice, whenever you're updating an old character, just do it over from the start. It will spare you from your mistakes of the past. I know, very dramatic, right? There is not that much that I can say about this character because it hasn't actually been encountered at all in the story so far. Obviously Merrick has, you know, a lot of ties and mentions of this character, being it that it's his dad, but you know, what exact role it will serve, I don't yet know. That said though, he is carrying 2 legendary magic items, his armor and his sword, so you know, if he isn't giving them away for free, he's probably gonna end up dying horribly. That's just a meta prediction from me. At this point you might also be wondering which one of these 3 is the actual end boss, and honestly, unless something changes, I don't think it's any of these 3. The actual end boss of the campaign doesn't yet even really have a model because it's a very obscure, ethereal kind of figure. It's also the one that was responsible for corrupting this angel to begin with. But whether or not I make a separate video for that final boss in the future, maybe, I don't yet know. I'm not really given all of the spoilers, I'm just told as much as I need to know, you know, the bare minimum in order to make these models to begin with, and that's that. Alright, what exactly happens with these bosses we will see. You'll find out in the next D&D party update video. But now, as promised, the Hallowforge models. Throughout October we had a massive competition in my Discord server themed entirely around spooky Halloween models. There was a lot of really cool submissions and there is absolutely no way for me to do this whole contest justice here, not even if I was doing a full dissection video. But these were the 3 top winners. It's Spooky Month by Noogie, Racing the Reaper by Marcus, and the grand first place winner, Garfield the Sacriphage by, you guessed it, Solar Simon DM. Now the first 2 on that list are what I would call Hallowforge theater scenes or something like that. They're kind of set up around being viewed from a certain perspective within the booth, and from that angle they are definitely extremely impressive, right? They both fit the Halloween theme very very well, and I think especially Racing the Reaper plays really cleverly around how you can create cool perspectives through scaling with kit bashing. But really, I think the ultimate winner deserved the gold medal. This Garfield model by Solar Simon is not only horrifying from every single angle, no matter how you look at it, but at first glance it's very difficult for me to even know what is what when I look at this. It's not only a Hallowforge masterpiece, but a Halloween masterpiece. Most impressively is it doesn't even really rely on the booth at all to look this good. It's just an absolutely cracked model all on its own, and Solar Simon deserves all the praise he gets for his style. So, thank you to these 3 winners, and to everyone else who participated. It was a good contest. Now, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, please press like and subscribe. If you didn't, press dislike, and please let me know in the comments what you would like to see me work on next. And a massive extra special thank you to my Patreons. I'm at a point in life where I'm definitely under quite a bit of financial pressure, so I really cannot thank the following people enough for their support. And that is Stoat Dross, Nicholas A. Paul, Ken Hayes, Ghosty GM, Deus Mercurius Magna, Trainor3, Dread97, Mike Horst, Gesteig Panzer, Bob Bobinson, Ax Momo, Vin Penny, Helios, and Pseudo Samurai. Thank you all very much, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.